Lust alone cannot build relationships. Sex is a dynamic within a relationship, but not the relationship itself. There are plenty amazing relationships without requiring sex. What does build relationships is intimacy. What is intimacy and how do you increase it? How do you build it? Intimacy is how well you know the person. Therefore, any activity which makes it so you know the person more and more in and out builds intimacy and therefore builds a relationship. Now, what I want to do is I want to unpackage that whole sentiment. Because what was I doing before? I was doing short reels. What does that really help anyone? I want to unpackage that because rather than say some smart things that are witty and clever, what I want to encourage you to do is I want you to grasp it and understand it and capture it. And the most important thing is implement it. Those who know but do not do not know. Let me unpackage the first thing is that lust cannot build relationships. Well, a lot of people begin their relationships based on sex and inevitably question why is it that their relationship is falling apart or why can't they go anywhere with their relationship. When you make the distinction that what actually builds relationship is not the sex. Sex is a part of it. It's an amazing part of it. In fact, I like to start off the relationship very, very sexually. In essence, what I do is I get the sex out of the way and then I start building intimacy. I start building intimacy through sex. Now, what do other people do? What do most people do? What they do is they start building intimacy and then they presume they can have sex. I go about it differently because I am after all a non-apologetic, very sexual person. And so I build a relationship presuming that we're going to have sex already, and so we have sex and then I build the intimacy. Recognizing that the only people that I'm ever going to be in relationships with, because I have so very little time in the world and I'm a very incredibly busy person, are those people who are worthwhile. I'm never looking for one night stands. I'm always looking for first night stands. People who are worthy enough that I will have sex with them are worthy enough to be my friends. It's a waste of my time to merely just meet someone just for sex once. So, going back, I build relationships. Sex is a fantastic lust, sex, desire, those animalistic and primal emotions are amazing. They're wonderful. I encourage you to indulge in them and perhaps even start relationships with them. But those things don't build relationships. What does build relationships is intimacy. Now let's unpackage the thing that I said that not all relationships, in fact, there are many great relationships without requiring sex. That begins with the premise that most people misunderstand relationships. They presume that when you say, I'm in a relationship, therefore you are in a monogamous one. Monogamy being one and one person. You're with one person and only one person, sexually exclusively. That's what people think about when they think relationships. Oh, you have a partner. But in fact, a relationship actually is how you interact and interface with entities or objects. My relationship to this earth is that I am its inhabitant. My relationship to Thorby, my cat, is that I am its master and she is my pet. And that doesn't need to be verbally communicated. Wordlessly. Appreciated by both parties. And so that is my relationship to things. My relationship to you is that you are my audience, presumably, most of you. Some of you are more intimate with me. And I am the person who is speaking through the camera. I could be some random guy on YouTube or Instagram or Facebook, or we could be more intimately linked than that. So a relationship is how you interact and interface with people. What builds a relationship, you see, is how you interact and interface with them in a more intimate level, intimate being how well you know the person. The more we know each other, the more intimate we become. I want you to really grasp that. Sex can build intimacy, but sex is not the end goal. Sex is merely an activity. And in fact, you can have sex with people who are your friends and remain strictly as friends. There's a funny term before I end this. There's a funny term, platonic relationships. Platonic presuming that you are non-sexual, but in fact, Plato was a very sexual person, so it's a very interesting thing. So what builds relationships is intimacy. How do you build intimacy? Any activity which increases your knowledge about each other. The more you share, the more you communicate, the more you appreciate each other, builds intimacy. On the next video, on a different video, I like to keep these short but not too short. I want you to grasp the information. But for now, the takeaway here is that sex is a fantastic way to build relationships, but that cannot be the end on its own. Sometimes it's great to have it as an end in its own. Perhaps you agree with somebody, hey, let's have sex, or perhaps let's have sex for a particular exchange. Those are amazing. But to build relationships, sex is merely an activity in building intimacy. The goal, your goal must be in building relationships is to build intimacy. Intimacy being how well you know the person, therefore any activity which builds intimacy. And if you have sex too, that's fantastic. If you want to know more advanced things about this, go to my website www.greatrelationshipsyou.com and visit me on my social medias. I would really appreciate it if you share this video with people that would appreciate it. And it would really help me out if you liked it and if you hearted it and if you shared this video. I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.